How's everybody doing? Give me a hell yeah. All right. So thank you, everyone, for coming out. It's actually very, I'm going to take my glasses off. It's too bright. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and supporting us. This is a very important event, and it's awesome to see this type of response. I'm here to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, winning the talent war on Broadway. And it's something that I'm personally very excited about, and something that I think we can actually win. And I know that there's mixed, everyone talks about Broadway 20 years from now. There's a mix of optimism and pessimism. It's all over the place. I'm extraordinarily optimistic. And I think right now what's happening is, and over the next 20 years, is how are we going to win the talent war? And I think we are in the idea business. And I think for us to have the best ideas, we need to have the best people. And I think to do that, I want to think of Broadway beyond the place and think of Broadway as an idea factory, right? We have this incredible idea factory filled with these incredible people that are here today. We've got amazing people that have gotten here. Some people have spoken, creatives, artists, a whole mix of people. But our business has thrived off that talent. And when you look at over the next 20 years, how do we continue to get amazing talent? And to me, I've always looked at, I kind of fell into theater, and this is my 10 years of being in the business. And I sort of tripped into it. And the one thing and the one greater purpose that I've always loved about the theater is I think the theater, I always look at it, our idea factory opens hearts and minds. At the end of the day, the greater purpose of what we do. And for us to recruit new talent into our industry, I think it's important for them to understand that purpose and really want to get behind that. And in the talent war, the talent of the future has options, though, right? So they could come to our industry and be in opening hearts and minds. But hey, they can go make a greener planet. There's tons of companies you can go to do that. They can go save lives. That's pretty cool, right? You might want to do that. They can go connect the world. They can go to technology companies. They have all this incredible options. So for us, the question that was poised when we started this was to be the best we can in 2032. I think our goal is to fill our idea factory with the greatest talent over these other idea factories. And I look at it, and I think of them as just as the innovators. That's kind of the term I'm using. So who are the innovators of 2032? I look at it, so technology already has opened up what I'm looking at as like a talent pipeline, right? Means, access, perspective. And this is amazing for us, right? So means. There's a global talent pool of people who have means to fuel our creativity. When I started my company, I had, I think the cost of running business was $1,000 for a laptop. And I could play in the space. I could present ideas and have a purpose here. The cost of, all the trends are in our favor right now. The cost of technology is going to continue to reduce the means that people could participate. So here you have this worldwide global creative talent base who have the means to participate. Technology is also on our side on access. We are a collaborative business. It's amazing when you look at the number of people that touch a Broadway show at one moment in time. We are extraordinarily collaborative. If you look at where technology is taking us, it's kind of exciting. Technology is taking us to a place, whether it's through social network growth and things like whatever it looks like. Let me put it this way. The next 20 years, it is all about bringing us closer together, either digitally or you'll see through transportation enhancements. If it takes 6 hours to get to London today, what will it take in 20 years from now? The whole idea of us being more interconnected, that is really on our side. And finally, perspective to support our purpose. There's a global talent base of incredible stories out there that are happening right now. And if you realize that they have the access and they can collaborate and they have the means, now their perspective comes into our talent pool. So to me, I'm extraordinarily optimistic that this is the perfect talent store for new talent for us. So how will our idea factory win in 2032? I think it's kind of simple, although not a simple answer. And I think it's by expanding the exposure of Broadway. And when I put this presentation together, at first I thought about it to say expanding the business of Broadway. But I think exposure is probably a better word. And so why am I so optimistic we can win? And I want to talk about 3 specific topics. And again, my business, I'm a digital marketing shop. We interview creative talent all day. My whole business is based on talent. And I think there are 3 things that I want to talk about that I think currently hold us back, but in the future look very rosy for us. So you think about what the innovators want. They want financial opportunities for growth. I want to start with that one. So who's played the game of life before, right? So you do not want to get the artist card in that game, right? You know that. It's a running joke. We've taken a generation of people and we said, don't be the artist because you'll get screwed in the game of life, mind you. So then, but there's a little truth to this. So if you look at, I pulled a report from Georgetown that talked about the top 10 majors with the lowest median earnings. And arts is mentioned a few times on there, but bam, drama and theater arts. So there is truth to it. And I think for us, if you, again, I'll go back to the central question is, what is the best Broadway can be in 2032? We need to expand the exposure of Broadway to increase financial opportunities for innovators. It's relatively straightforward. We can't ask people, if you look at the slides I showed up front that talk about save the world, save the planet, all these different options, we can't say come to Broadway because it feels good. And if you're talking about the best Broadway can be, the best Broadway can be is us attracting as much talent as humanly possible. So I know I invited a bunch of students that are in the room, which I'm very, very happy you're here, from Columbia and a few other places. Columbia, make some noise. There you go, good. I thought I avoided more than that. No, I'm kidding. All right, so, no, I'm kidding. But I know there's a lot of young talent here, which I think is fantastic. And I'm going to show you a slide that I think makes a lot of people cringe. I look at this, and we've heard a lot of different perspectives, okay? I look at this, whether it's this option, whether it's on these different screens or not, or whatever it looks like, the business of Broadway right now, the creative capital we have, seems far too great to live only in the walls of theaters. It feels far, far too strong. You see the crap on television. You tell me that our talents can't be moved to new platforms. It is already happening, and it's beginning to happen, the distribution of Broadway to new places. And it's exciting as hell. And to me, I think there's an untapped opportunity. And I would say it's actually starting to happen, which is exciting. And I don't know if this is it, and that could be another entire panel a day of what that future specifically looks like. But there is no question in my mind that the growth of the industry from a distribution standpoint, which means new financial opportunities, is going to really help us. The more distribution, the more financial opportunities, the more talent will say, I want to go pick Broadway. I want to go open hearts and minds. The second thing I want to talk about is innovators will want change and growth to be constant, right? So if you look at it from this perspective, this is our 10-year capacity chart, right? This is incredible when you think about it. We've had 9/11, we've had a recession, we had a housing boom and bust, we had all this stuff, yet we consistently remain at 80% capacity. Now, I think that gives a lot of credit, and I don't think the industry gets a lot of credit for what it's done. There's a lot of things we were doing well, and I don't necessarily know that it gets talked about enough. But I think a lot of people, from the theater owners to producers, the industry in many respects is very healthy, and compared to, look at the other charts of a lot of other industries in the entertainment space. But I think when you look at it from an innovator standpoint, a talent standpoint, where we are today, how do you say the talent of tomorrow to say, come here and work in our industry? Hey, we're at 80% capacity. We have very limited supply. Come into our idea factory. What's the scope of potential change that they could do? There isn't that much. That's not how, let me put it this way, that's not how it feels. And to get the highest share, and I like to use the words highest share of talent of the next generation, by expanding the exposure of Broadway and expanding the distribution channels, think of all of the possible change we could have. Everyone in here probably has a totally different opinion of whether a Broadway show should live on a movie screen, or whether it should live on a DVD. Think of all of the debates happening of how that can happen. The only way we actually figure that out is if we have the talented people, the most talented, that come help us figure that out. So as I said before, I think that as the business does expand, and it's happening, to me, this is why I'm so optimistic, because the idea for change, especially over the next 20 years, is ripe. It's awesome. So, and finally, innovators will want to believe in our greater purpose. And I look at this and say, so here's where we are today, right? We've got 83 of audiences, essentially at a Caucasian, with an average annual household income of $250,000. That is crazy when you really think about it. Okay, and so the innovators we will seek, I'm pretty sure they don't match those demographics, right? In the States, you are far more likely, especially as an entrepreneur, to have started out poor than rich. Never mind what it looks like globally. So I look at this and say there's a gap here, right? So let's look at average 10-year ticket prices. I want to qualify this just to say that this takes into account a bump, doesn't take into account a bump in the way grosses were reported. But at the end of the day, you could see there is a rising ticket price. And I want to just take a moment to talk about this, because I think I look at it as good, bad, or necessary. I think our rising ticket prices, there's something that actually is very good about that. It shows that people have an appetite for live entertainment, and they're consistently willing to pay more for it. That's good. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The second part, the bad part about it, from an innovator standpoint, is if I want people to care about our greater purpose, I need to get them into the theater, though. I need to get them exposed to what Broadway is about. And so I think on the bad side, that's what it is. And then finally, the necessary part is something that I think doesn't get talked about enough. And I think we beat ourselves up for something that we don't necessarily have all that much control of in the current model. Our current model, the financial needs of maximizing ticket revenue, is paramount to our survival, right? So when we have the arguments of why are we not bringing new audiences into the theater, or why aren't we investing in new talent? I know a lot of the producers. I know the theater owners. Everyone really does give a shit about bringing new audiences into the theater. They truly do. But there's no financial model in a Broadway business, rising expenses, everything is going up, to say, hey, you know what, put some money in investing kids in the South Bronx. It does, in a supply and demand model, it is far too challenging to take the burden to do that. I think as we grow the business, as you grow the financial opportunities for the business as a whole, two things begin to happen. One is you become less reliant on ticket revenue. If there are other financial investment streams coming into distribution platforms for us, you alleviate the reliance on ticket revenue, and you also create new ways for people to touch the brand. I would also just want to qualify the statement I said before. I'm a big supporter of anything that we can do to bring new audiences into the theater. And there are more innovative ways we could do that today in the existing ticket revenue model. But over the long term, it's very hard for me to believe that if we don't grow the business, we're going to have a chance to win in that talent war space. So what does a vibrant idea factory mean for Broadway in 2032? Incredible original productions, because we're going to have incredible talent in our industry who give a crap. We're going to have full theaters with more diverse audiences because our distribution points, if distribution is strong, and I'm not worried about the supply and demand model on Broadway. We have a limited supply business in a major market. I'm not worried about there not being enough people wanting to come to Broadway. There are a ton of external factors that could affect that statement, but for the most part, we have great talent, great people, and great people behind the scenes running this. I think the third thing is less risk from external factors. When we're not reliant solely on Broadway ticket revenues, when there's a snowstorm in New York, every marketing director and producer in here has a heart attack because you know all the revenue is going to be lost for that day, right? It stinks. And how about we open a paper and they go, oh my God, so arts coverage, there's not much more arts coverage in the press anymore. There's not much more arts funding in the school anymore. We have all of these external factors that we're relying on. Screw those external factors, and I think as we grow the business, it'll be advantageous for us. Just kind of go right through it. Healthy progressive investment, expanded potential for new work that aren't reliant on the success it has within the four walls. There are other distribution opportunities. I don't know exactly what they are, but I sure as hell know, as I said before, that the creative talent within this industry can live beyond the four walls of the theater. And finally, a wider platform to share our greater purpose. I think, to me, innovator development is the best path to audience development, and I think we can win the talent war. Thank you for having me.